When the credits roll in a Pokemon game, sometimes that means the fun is just beginning, and to kick it off there might just be a post-game adventure to serve as the epilogue and give the player one more challenge. When they're good, boy are they good, but when they're bad, well, they might be Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, I like these games, I played them a bit more than other Pokemon fans would recommend, but in terms of the story that unfolds after becoming the champion, it has developed a bit of a reputation for being uninteresting, ultimately uneventful, and just straight up annoying. It doesn't start off too bad. I mean, Professor Magnolia shows up and gives you a Master Ball, but she doesn't seem too thrilled about the most recent Darkest Day. So off we go back to where it all began. At the shrine we'll find Hop, who wants to have one more battle, and I like that we get to interact with him again. I wouldn't say he's the best rival, but sometimes you just need a friendly buddy by your side, plus anybody is better than Trace from Let's Go. Anyway, defeating Hop as usual moves things along, and Sonia shows up to congratulate us on becoming the new champion. Honestly, I'm realizing that I haven't ever done a dedicated video on either of these two because a good amount of this post-game is meant to finish out their stories. I really do like Sonia, and replaying this to gather footage was a great excuse to see her again. After earning her lab coat and discovering the secrets of the legendary Pokemon, she lets us know that she's become the new professor of the Galar region. Also, she gives us a copy of her newest book, which is becoming a strangely frequent occurrence in modern Pokemon games. This all feels like a nice reunion, and you might be wondering why this is supposed to be the worst post-game, when we get to hang out with our good old friends. Well, we don't need to wait too long to find out why, because upon returning the Rusted Sword and Rusted Shield, these two bozos show up and crash a party yapping about how Sonia's research is completely wrong. This is Swordward and Shieldbird, some of the worst English names in the Pokemon franchise, but at least they inspired the memes about their secret third brother named Gunther. Alright, they declare themselves to be the new kings of Galar, descendants of the first king. Before explaining anything else, they take the Rusted Sword and Shield for themselves, and it's kinda hilarious that it even plays the item obtained jingle. So yeah, they're really annoying, terrible people, beyond just having atrocious character designs. It's not that people's problems with Sword and Shield's post-game completely hinge on these two, but the fact that their purpose is literally to show up and get in the way of a nice ending we were having doesn't exactly give off the best first impression. Don't get me wrong, they're supposed to be annoying, and everybody with common sense is supposed to hate them. They're basically some lower stakes villains that still tie into the idea of questioning what exactly is going on with the history of the Galar region. Also, they're cool enough battles with each twin using Pokemon themed to either swords or shield. We take back one of the artifacts and they let slip that their ancestor created the mural that covered up the Zacian and Zamazenta statues before leaving the scene with a goofy ass run. Back in the lab at Wedgehurst, we meet Professor Sonia's new assistant, who definitely isn't suspicious. The Sword and Shield weirdos, Sonia's words, not mine, are running around the Galar region setting off power spots, which we're now able to monitor and track. This then leads us into the real meat of gameplay in this adventure, as we basically run back to the old gyms we visited before and team up to battle rampaging Dynamax Pokemon. These aren't the same as the raids that would normally take place in the den because there are no shields or turn limits, but they're a fun idea. A chance to have some more battles and actually return to the gyms, though only the stadium and not the puzzle. And of course we get to catch up with the gym leaders, who I feel like didn't get the most development during the main story, so it's cool to interact with them here. They don't necessarily get more of that development, but again, seeing them at all was kinda fun. First we help out Milo and Piers, the latter of which actually follows us to the other gyms because Spikemoth doesn't have its own power spot. If anything, we get to know him best combined with the other events in the main story. Oh, also Swordward and Shieldbird keep popping up like cartoon characters and taunting us before running away. The rest of these battles really aren't a whole lot to write home about. Again, they're neat but nothing special. Back again at the lab, the two bozos show up demanding all the wishing stars and just being their bothersome selves. Like actually they're being terrible people the way they just verbally abuse Hop. Goons, as Sonia would call them. A double battle commences, and playing this back, I actually kinda forgot how many battles there were. It's not a major gauntlet or anything, there are breaks in between, and the story battles were never all that difficult anyway, but generally I would prefer more battles against new characters than not, so weirdly enough we're looking pretty good here. Though even after defeating Swordward and Shieldbird yet again, the professor's assistant reveals herself to have been an imposter all along and hands over the wishing stars. I know that we didn't really get the time to know this character that well before she betrayed us, but it still hurts a little because we see Sonia negatively impacted. She's a character we do know, so seeing her made unhappy so quickly isn't great, though it doesn't really get the chance to sink in. Sure, Sonia's a cool and tough character, but some kind of struggle would have been a little better to at least build her up even more. We continue battling through more Dynamax Pokemon, meeting up with the gym leaders just like before. It is also cool that some of these end up being split in the sense that canonically there are multiple enraged Pokemon and each character is battling their own, even though we only get to see our battle unfold. The point is that having a one-on-one Dynamax battle against a wild Pokemon is something we don't get a whole lot of, so for being a unique experience I kinda like it. When we arrive in Balanleia, Bede has actually already defeated the Dynamax Pokemon and instead challenges us to a battle. One of my favorite storylines from the main games, which already technically had a conclusion at the final league battle, but it's still enjoyable being with Bede and Opal yet again. Okay, 2 more of these battles left, catching up with the last 2 gym leaders, and for the moment we seem to have quelled every giant Pokemon in the region. So the post-game is over now, right? Well, there's still the matter of the 2 bozos who started this whole fiasco in the first place, who are currently inside the energy plant. Along with a group of snobby friends, they try shaming Sonia, upset how she revealed Zacian and Zamazenta to be the true heroes that saved Galar rather than their ancestor, whose clout they've been riding on ever since. In retrospect, it's a really interesting idea to follow out the events of the main story in this way. Like, finding out that the truth of old legends is actually different than what was recorded is bound to affect the people who recorded it differently. Things aren't as simple as telling everybody the true events and expecting them to go along with it. Everything ties into the theme of legacy, which prevails throughout the entire game. Swordward and Shieldbird are people who have had some of the most extravagant legacy, all of which was built on lies, and their desire to cling to the old legacy so hard directly conflicts with Sonia, Hop, and the player character, who have all been trying to actively build a new legacy. So another battle against the funny hair guy, and he doesn't take too much to knock out, but I do like that we get to use the energy plant battlefield again, though I still think the battle against Chairman Rose was a lot cooler. Wow, imagine saying that. Defeating this brother brings us to the top of the tower, where the other brother has tricked one of the legendary dogs into showing up and has blasted it with Galar particles in an attempt to get it rampaging and thus tarnishing its reputation. I mean, not a terrible plan, it's just that it definitely didn't feel as planned out and meticulous as other villains. And they even almost get themselves hurt, deservedly so. As you would imagine, there's only one way to solve this problem, and that's with a battle. This would be against a dog that's opposite to the game you're playing on, so that's a fun idea to actually utilize both of the legendary Pokemon. Afterwards, the other dog shows up and helps out, at which point the day is saved and Hop runs off with the final rusted artifact back to the slumbering Weald. The legendary wolf almost attacks Swordward and Shieldbird, and I really wish we could just let them. But I suppose mercy is the only option, and this is our chance to catch our partner for ourselves, which will actually be in the powered up form. Now that Swordward and Shieldbird are taken care of, the only thing left to do is catch up with Hop, who has managed to help the other wolf calm down, and he catches it for himself. I honestly really do like how they utilize these Pokemon having both interact with each other, but obviously the one according to the box art is the one you get to keep. Giving one of the other characters a legendary Pokemon is another cool idea, something that we really haven't seen since like Black and White, I think. Anyway, we get yet another battle against Hop with his full power team featuring the legendary wolf. So after playing through this adventure again, I can honestly say that it was kinda cool. It's about an additional hour or 2 of content beyond the credits, which is why I would count it as a post-game, even though a lot of it feels like it should go along with the main story. I mean, this is where we capture the box art legendary. I think one thing that made it feel not as good as other post-games is that because there's no new areas, most of the stories and battles take place throughout the mainland that we've already traveled through, so it feels like a lot of backtracking, and it comes down to a repetitive cycle of talking and battling, rather than taking a breather to walk around and explore or capture some new Pokemon. Also, like I said, Swordward and Shieldbird are just not cool. They're meant to be this way and everybody in the game hates them, but there isn't exactly enough of them getting their comeuppance until the very end. But there's also the fact that they come back and apologize, realizing what they did was wrong, when most people wouldn't really care what happened to them one way or another. Most might have actually liked to see them get some kind of jail time. I mean, Chairman Rose was locked up and we never see him again. I also understand that it would have hurt the pacing of the Eternatus battle to have us catch Zacian and Zamazenta right after, and I do appreciate that they weren't just waiting in the slumbering Weald, but this does make it feel like a bit of a chore. All in all, I would genuinely say that this was a fun post-game looking back on it. I would have liked things to be spread out a little better and still can't stand the bozos, but mopping the floor with them again is a little treat. For getting more moments with some of the likable characters we met during the main story and, you know, some nice experience from the battles, I think Sword and Shield's post-game is perfectly fine. Living in a world where the DLC is also already out and it has additional adventures if you've completed the main game honestly makes it feel like just the middle point of the whole game. So let me know what you think in the comments below about the Galarian Legendary event and if you have any ideas of how it could be improved. Anyway, after adventuring in Galar once again, I honestly think it's time for a haircut because I really want to make sure it doesn't grow out and look like one of these 2 guys. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators, Hero Pizza, Quay, That Sven, Altaris, BB Wyatt, Alex with Shiny Hunts, Tyler Hopper, Lockadox, Koi13, Cemetery Hill, Cosmo Zero, Rainfrux, Cheez-It62, GatorKid509, TF, Mathaclock947, Taijirai, Justin R, Phantom, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes for comments and live streams, and listen to our monthly podcast as it comes out, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I'll catch you all later.
Here they come. With Witness the grace and majesty in the Pokémon trading card game, Sword and Shield. Each booster pack of 10 cards sold separately. Cards vary by pack.